The struggle. Arya sat in her wheelchair, staring out of the window at the world moving on without her. It had been 10 long years since the accident that changed everything. A moment, one wrong step, and her life had been flipped upside down. The doctor said she would never walk again. The thought had haunted her for years, but it never really sank in until she tried to take a step and failed. Each day felt the same. She woke up, had breakfast, and sat by the window watching people walk by. She was trapped in her own body. Her hands worked fine, but her legs, they were useless, heavy, and uncooperative. No matter how much she tried to push them, they wouldn't move. Her legs were like two lifeless pieces of wood. There were times when she felt like she was invisible. People would look at her, maybe offer a smile, but they never saw her for who she was anymore. They saw a person in a chair, someone who was weak and broken. Her dreams of running, dancing, or even just standing tall were fading into the background, replaced with a feeling of hopelessness. She had tried everything: therapy, medication, even alternative treatments, but nothing had worked. Her family had tried to stay positive. Her mother would tell her to keep going, to stay hopeful. But Arya couldn't help the sadness that grew in her heart. How long could she keep pretending that everything was fine? How much longer could she live with the feeling of being trapped in a body that no longer obeyed her? There were nights when the loneliness hit hardest. In the quiet of her room, with only the soft hum of the machines to keep her company, she would cry. No one knew how much it hurt to be stuck, to watch the world pass by while she couldn't join in. It wasn't just the physical pain of not being able to walk. It was the emotional pain of being stuck in a life she didn't choose, in a body that betrayed her. Sometimes Arya wondered if it was worth it to keep going. She had so many questions, so many dreams she would never chase. She had given up on being the woman she once was, the one who could run across fields, jump in the air, or even just walk down the street. Now, she just wanted to be able to stand one day. While scrolling through the news on her tablet, she saw an article that caught her attention. It was about a man named Lucas. He was a human inventor, known for creating cutting-edge technology, and recently he had developed something revolutionary: robotic legs. At first, Arya didn't believe it. Robotic legs? It sounded like something out of a sci-fi movie, something too good to be true. But as she read more, she felt a glimmer of hope. Lucas's invention had already helped many people with disabilities, giving them the ability to walk again. The idea seemed too perfect, too unbelievable. Could it be real? Could something like this actually work for her? But deep down, she knew that she had nothing left to lose. Her current life was filled with sorrow, frustration, and pain. The thought of walking again, of moving freely, was almost too much to hope for the next day. She made a decision. She would contact Lucas. She didn't know what would happen or if he could even help her, but the thought of being trapped in that chair forever was too much. She had to try. The fear of disappointment, of yet another failed attempt, was strong, but the possibility of a life beyond the wheelchair was even stronger. She sent an email, pouring out her story, explaining her condition, and asking if there was any chance that Lucas's technology could help her. She hit send, knowing that this might be her only shot at something better. She sat back, staring at the screen, waiting for a response. Time passed slowly, each minute feeling like an eternity. Later that evening, her tablet beeped. It was an email from Lucas. She opened it quickly, her heart racing. His reply was simple: "I believe we can help you. Let's set up a meeting." A rush of emotions flooded through Arya. Hope, fear, excitement, and uncertainty all mixed together. This could be the start of something new, or it could end like everything else, with disappointment. But for the first time in a long while, Arya allowed herself to believe in the possibility of change. She had to. The struggle wasn't over, But the door to a new beginning had just opened. Now she had a choice to make. Could she trust this stranger? This human with her future? Would his robotic legs be the answer she had been waiting for? The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years, Arya felt like she could stand up, even if only in her dreams. The offer Arya sat in her wheelchair, staring at the clock on the wall. It had been 2 weeks since Lucas's email. 2 weeks of nervous anticipation, wondering if this was just another dead end. But today, it was finally happening. Lucas was coming to meet her. The meeting wasn't just a formality, it was her last hope, and the weight of it felt suffocating. The doorbell rang and her heart skipped a beat. Arya took a deep breath and wheeled herself to the door. She opened it slowly, not knowing what to expect. Standing there was Lucas. He was taller than she had imagined, with sharp eyes that held a quiet confidence. There was a calmness about him, but there was something else, too. Something that suggested he knew the stakes. He wasn't just an inventor. He was someone who had seen the pain of others and wanted to change it. "Hello, Arya," he said with a kind smile. "I'm Lucas. It's nice to meet you." She didn't know why, but his voice put her at ease. "Thank you for coming," she replied softly, unsure of how to start. This was it, the moment that could change everything. He glanced at her wheelchair, then back at her face. "I've read your story," he said. "I know what you've been through, and I believe we can do something about it. We can make you walk again." The words sounded impossible, even as they left his lips. How could anyone promise something like that? How could anyone promise a miracle when there had been so many failed attempts before? Yet there was something about Lucas's presence that made her believe him, even if just a little. "But how?" Arya whispered, her voice trembling. "How can you be sure?" Lucas stepped forward, his eyes soft but firm. "I've been working on robotic technology for years, Arya. I've developed a system that can connect directly with the nervous system, allowing your body to control the legs like they were your own. It's not just a machine strapped to your body, it's an extension of you." The idea seemed absurd. How could something artificial connect so seamlessly with her own body? It sounded like science fiction, like something from a dream. But Lucas's confidence was contagious, and the way he spoke made it seem possible. For the first time in years, a sliver of hope flickered in Arya's chest. "There's a catch," Lucas continued, his voice growing more serious. "This process will not be easy. It's going to hurt. It's going to challenge everything. You thought you knew about yourself. You'll have to push your limits, and there's no guarantee it will work perfectly." Arya's stomach churned. Pain? Challenges? She was used to both, but this was different. This wasn't just about enduring another day in her wheelchair. This was about risking everything she had left, the little hope she clung to, the fragile trust she had built in people. The fear of failure had kept her in this chair for so long. Now she was being asked to let go of that fear and step into the unknown. But what was the alternative? Staying in the chair, living a life half-lived, watching others move freely while she remained stuck? The thought made her skin crawl. She wanted more. She needed more. "I'm willing to try," she said, her voice barely above a whisper but filled with determination. "I don't know if it will work, but I have to try." Lucas smiled, a flicker of respect in his eyes. "I admire your courage, Arya, but you need to understand the risks. Once we start this, there's no turning back. If the legs don't work as expected, it could cause permanent damage. It's a gamble." Arya's heart raced. The stakes were higher than she'd ever imagined. If it didn't work, she could be stuck even worse than before. But if it worked, she could walk again. She could be free. "What do I need to do?" she asked, her voice steady now, her fear transforming into something else. Something stronger. First, we'll begin by fitting the prototype to you. It won't be easy and it won't be quick. But over time, your body will adjust. You'll need physical therapy and we'll have to monitor you closely. But I believe it can work. Arya nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and terror. This was the moment where everything could change. This was the moment she stepped into, the unknown. "Let's do it," she said, her voice filled with resolve. As Lucas began to explain the process in more detail, Arya felt the weight of what she was about to undertake. She would be stepping into the future, into the hands of a stranger who believed in something she wasn't sure she could ever fully understand. But in that moment, she didn't need to understand everything. She just needed to trust. And trust, for once, felt like the right thing to do. But as she wheeled herself to the chair Lucas had set up for her, a single thought ran through her mind. What if this is too much? The moment she had been waiting for had arrived. Now, all she could do was hope that the man standing in front of her wasn't just a dream. What if he really could give her a chance to walk again? The countdown had begun, and nothing could prepare her for what was coming next. Minnie. The transformation. The first day of the transformation was like stepping into a dream and realizing it might not be a dream at all. Arya sat in the sterile, quiet room with Lucas, her heart pounding in her chest. The air felt heavy, thick with uncertainty. This was it, the moment where everything could change or everything could fall apart. Lucas had already set up the equipment. The robotic legs, sleek and metallic, stood beside her, waiting. They looked like something from a sci-fi movie, with intricate parts and glowing lights that made them seem almost alive. "Are you ready?" Lucas asked, his voice calm but filled with something that hinted at the gravity of the situation. Arya wasn't sure what she was feeling. Nervousness, fear, hope, all tangled up inside her. The idea of having artificial limbs attached to her body made her stomach churn. But she had no choice. She couldn't keep living this half-life watching the world pass by while she was stuck in a chair. She nodded slowly. "I'm ready." The process began, and at first, it was nothing like she imagined. Lucas was patient and gentle as he fitted the robotic legs onto her. It wasn't painful at first, just uncomfortable, like something foreign was being attached to her body. The legs were heavy at first, and she could feel the cold metal against her skin. Lucas worked quickly, making adjustments, ensuring that everything was in place. But it wasn't just about attaching the legs. It was about something deeper. Something that would take time. "The legs are connected to your nervous system," Lucas explained as he worked. "They'll sync with your brain, but you'll have to teach your mind how to control them. It's a gradual process, so don't expect to stand and walk immediately. It will take time." Arya nodded, her breathing shallow. Her hands were clenched into fists, her knuckles white with the pressure. Her body was already tensing, instinctively resisting the foreignness of the robotic limbs. They didn't feel like a part of her, not yet. It felt like she was being transformed into something different. After the initial adjustments, Lucas moved back, watching her closely. "Try moving your legs," he said. Arya hesitated. How could she move something that wasn't hers? How could she trust something that didn't belong to her body? But there was no turning back now. Taking a deep breath, she focused on her legs, trying to push through the fear. Her mind screamed at her to just let go, to move as she once did. But her body refused to obey. It felt like there was a barrier between her and the legs, like she was stuck on one side of a thick glass wall. The robotic legs didn't move. "Not yet." "You're doing great," Lucas said, his voice steady. "Just focus on your thoughts. Imagine your legs moving as they should. Take it slow." Arya closed her eyes, trying to picture it. She imagined herself walking, taking one step after another. But each time she tried to will her legs to move, nothing happened. Frustration welled up inside her, building like a storm. She felt the tears pushing against her eyelids, but she fought them back. She wouldn't cry. Not now. Not when this could be her only chance. "This isn't working," she whispered, almost to herself. "Why isn't it working?" Lucas knelt beside her, his gaze soft but intense. "It's not going to work immediately. The connection between your mind and these legs needs time to establish. It's not magic, it's technology. You have to believe in it, Arya, and you have to trust yourself." The words sank into her chest, and she realized something. Lucas wasn't just giving her robotic legs. He was giving her something more. He was giving her the chance to trust again. The chance to believe in something beyond her broken body. She took a deep breath, and this time, something felt different. She focused harder. She imagined herself standing tall, her feet on solid ground, feeling the weight of her own body moving forward. The robotic legs felt heavier this time, but she pushed against the resistance. Her muscles tensed, fighting against the strange sensations. And then, for the first time, she felt it. A movement. It was small, barely noticeable, but it was there. The tiniest shift in her legs. Her heart leapt in her chest, but she didn't stop. She focused, pushing harder, feeling the strange sensation of control slip into her mind. Slowly, one foot lifted off the ground. "Arya," Lucas said, his voice full of excitement. "You're doing it!" With trembling hands, Arya felt the weight of the robotic legs beneath her, adjusting to the motion, adjusting to her. And then, for the first time in 10 years, she took a step. It was shaky, uncertain, but it was a step. She was walking. Her breath hitched, and she couldn't believe it. The room seemed to spin around her as she stood on her own 2 feet. The weight of her body felt different, but somehow it felt right. For the first time in a decade, she was standing. For the first time, she was in control. Her body was her own again. But the joy was short-lived. As soon as her second step came, she stumbled. The robotic legs jerked and she nearly fell. Panic surged in her chest, and for a moment, everything seemed to slip away. But Lucas was there, steadying her, guiding her. "It's okay," he said softly. "It's going to take time. You're not just learning how to walk. You're learning how to trust your body again. Give it time." Arya nodded, her chest heaving with a mix of fear and excitement. Her legs didn't feel like her own. They felt like something alien, something that didn't belong to her. But she had taken that first step. That was the beginning of everything. This was no longer just a dream. This was real. And as she stood there, struggling to take another step, one thing became clear. She wasn't just learning to walk again. She was learning to live again. But with each step, something else lingered in the back of her mind. What if this doesn't last? What if this is just a brief moment of hope, and then everything falls apart again? The fear, the doubt, they whispered. In her mind, like shadows. But Arya pushed them aside. For now, she had the chance to move. For now, she had hope. And that was all that mattered. The first steps. The sun was setting, casting a golden hue through the window as Arya took a deep breath. Her hands gripped the armrests of her wheelchair, and for the first time since the robotic legs had been fitted, she was alone. Lucas had left for the evening, promising he would return in the morning to check on her progress. But tonight, it was up to her. Tonight, she would face the challenge of standing and walking alone. The room felt suffocatingly quiet, save for the occasional hum of the machines monitoring her progress. Arya looked down at the robotic legs, still unfamiliar to her, yet somehow a part of her. She had taken her first steps under Lucas's watchful eyes, but those steps had been shaky, uncertain. They had been a small victory, but they hadn't been enough. Could she stand on her own now? Could she walk without help? With her breath caught in her throat, she wheeled herself to the edge of the chair. She could feel the weight of the legs, heavy and alien, beneath her. Her muscles screamed in protest as she tried to lift her body up, but the legs didn't move. They remained rigid, unmoving, as though mocking her. "Come on," she thought to herself. "Just one step. One step is all it takes." She pushed her hands against the armrests and tried again. This time, she felt the tension in her legs as she tried to lift herself. Slowly, her body shifted forward, and the first foot came off the ground. She gasped as her legs jerked beneath her, not quite following the movements her brain commanded. She stumbled, feeling her heart race, her fear creeping in like a shadow. "Focus," she whispered to herself. "Focus, Arya." Her second foot moved, a little more smoothly, but she could feel the robotic legs resisting her at every turn. Every step she tried to take was an obstacle. It was like trying to walk through thick mud, where the more she fought, the harder it became. She moved one step forward, then another, and each time the legs fought back, each step feeling less like progress and more like a struggle against a powerful force she couldn't control. She reached the middle of the room, her legs trembling. With the effort, her mind filled with 1,000 doubts. Why isn't this working? Her breath came in sharp gasps. She wanted to sit back down, to give up, but something inside her wouldn't let her. She had to keep moving. She had to prove to herself that she could do this. The world outside was moving forward, and so should she. No more sitting in the shadows. No more waiting for things to change. This was her chance. With a final push, she managed to move one more step. It was wobbly, uncertain, but it was a step, and then another, and another. "I'm walking," she whispered, disbelief flooding her chest. Her heart raced in excitement, but it was quickly replaced by a wave of fear. What if this was as far as she could go? What if these steps were all she could manage? The robotic legs felt stiff, uncooperative. Each step seemed harder than the last, as if the technology was struggling to adapt to her movements. But she couldn't stop. She wouldn't stop. Just as she took another step, her leg buckled beneath her. Her body swayed, and for a moment it felt like everything was falling apart. Panic surged through her, her breath catching in her throat. Her hands reached out for support, but there was nothing to grab. She teetered on the edge of falling, her body helpless as the robotic legs seemed to fail her. "No," her mind screamed. "Not now. Not when I'm this close." Everything in her wanted to collapse into the wheelchair, to give in to the overwhelming fear that this was all too much. But she didn't. She couldn't. Instead, she dug her heels into the ground, focusing on one thought: move forward. With a force of will that surprised even her, Arya steadied herself. She straightened up, her body trembling from the strain, but she held herself together. Her next step was slow, calculated. She felt every movement, every shift in her body. The robotic legs still felt heavy and uncooperative, but there was something else now, something she hadn't felt before. Control. With a deep breath, she took another step, and this time the robotic legs responded. Not perfectly, but they moved with her. One step after another, Arya was walking. She was walking. The disbelief was so strong she had to remind herself it was real. Each step felt like a victory, a hard-earned victory, and though it was far from graceful, it was progress. But then, without warning, the right leg malfunctioned. It jerked, making an unsettling noise that sent a shock of panic through Arya. She stopped immediately, her heart hammering in her chest. The robotic leg locked in place, and for a moment she couldn't move. A wave of dread washed over her. Was this it? Was this the end of her progress? Before she could react, Lucas's voice echoed through the door. "Arya?" He had returned early. Arya turned towards him, her breath shaky. "Something's wrong," she said, her voice trembling. Lucas rushed to her side, his eyes scanning the robotic legs. He immediately began adjusting settings on a small control panel attached to the leg, his hands moving quickly and with purpose. "It's just a small error," he reassured her, his voice calm. "I've seen this happen before. It's nothing to worry about." But Arya couldn't shake the fear that gripped her chest. She had come so far, taken so many steps, only to be stopped by something so simple. The doubt, the uncertainty crept back in. What if this was all temporary? What if the robotic legs could never truly become a part of her? What if they were just a reminder of how broken she still was? Lucas continued to work, his hands steady. "You're doing great, Arya. You just need a little more time, that's all. These things take time." Her heart was still racing, but she forced herself to breathe. The fear wasn't gone, but it was fading. She had taken the first real steps of her life in years. That had to count for something. "Don't stop," she thought. "This is only the beginning." As Lucas fixed the leg, Arya took another step. And this time, it felt right. Each movement was a reminder that she wasn't just walking. She was fighting for her future. This wasn't just about robotic legs. This was about her. This was about reclaiming her life, step by step, and nothing, not even a malfunctioning leg, could take that away. The test. The next few days felt like a blur, each moment bringing both progress and setbacks. Arya's body was sore in ways she couldn't describe. The muscles in her legs ached as if they were being reawakened after years of dormancy, and each step she took was filled with a mixture of triumph and fear. It felt like she was walking, on the edge of a blade, too close to falling, yet unable to turn back. The robotic legs were no longer just an experiment. They were becoming a part of her, and the more she relied on them, the more terrifying it felt to trust them fully. Lucas had been by her side, adjusting the settings, making small tweaks. But the truth was, they were reaching a point where it was up to her. This was no longer about technology alone. It was about Arya learning to trust her own strength, to push through her doubts and fears. The longer she tried to walk, the more she realized that the legs weren't the only thing. She had to control. Her mind had to change too. She had to let go of the past, of the idea that she was broken, and that was harder than any physical challenge she had faced. The real test came one evening when Lucas asked her to take a walk outside. Arya had barely stepped beyond the confines of her apartment since the accident, and the idea of facing the world again, especially on robotic legs, was terrifying. Outside, the wind was cooler than she expected, and the streets were bustling with life. People moved freely, laughing and talking, while Arya felt like an outsider, unsure of where she belonged in this world. Lucas stood beside her, his eyes filled with encouragement. "You can do this, Arya. You've already come so far." But as she looked around, the fear started to creep in. What if she fell? What if the legs malfunctioned again? What if she couldn't keep up with the world around her? Every step felt like it carried the weight of her entire past. The years of being trapped in a wheelchair, the years of watching life move on without her. With one last deep breath, Arya steeled herself. She took her first step out of the apartment, building, feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders. The legs didn't respond perfectly at first. They felt stiff and foreign beneath her, but she kept moving. Each step was shaky, unsure, but it was progress. She could feel the cold pavement beneath her feet, feel the wind brushing against her face. She was walking. Really walking. But then, as she rounded a corner, disaster struck. A loud screeching noise came from her right leg, and before she could react, the leg malfunctioned again. Her body pitched forward, and for a moment, everything seemed to slow down. Panic surged through her. She reached out, trying to steady herself, but her leg wouldn't respond. It was like trying to walk through a nightmare, her body failing her once again. She collapsed onto the ground, the sharpness of the fall hitting her like a punch. Pain shot through her arm as it hit the concrete, and for a moment, she couldn't breathe. The world around her felt distant, blurry, as if she were trapped in a fog. The robotic leg was still locked in place, unmoving, mocking her. Why? She thought. Why can't I just walk? Why can't this work? Lucas rushed to her side, his face filled with concern. Aria, are you okay? Tears burned in her eyes as she pushed herself up, the fear and frustration rising like a storm inside her. Why isn't it working? She demanded, her voice trembling with emotion. Why can't I just walk? I've tried everything and I still can't do it right. Lucas knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. It's okay. You're doing your best. These things aren't perfect, but they're a step towards something better. We knew there would be challenges. I don't care about challenges, Aria snapped, her anger flaring. I just want to walk. I want to feel like I'm not broken anymore. I want to be normal. Lucas's expression softened, and he looked at her with understanding. You're not broken, Aria, and you don't need to be normal. You need to be you. You're already fighting for your future. That's the strength you need. He helped her up, his hands gentle but firm, offering her support. This is a test, Aria. It's not just about the legs. It's about you proving to yourself that you're stronger than you think. This is just a setback. It doesn't mean you can't keep going. Aria wiped her eyes, the tears still stinging her cheeks. She hadn't realized until now just how much fear she was holding inside, how much she feared failure. Failure had followed me my entire life, she thought. I was always the one who couldn't do it, the one who was left behind. But here, on the cold pavement, with Lucas standing beside her, she realized something. Maybe failure wasn't the end. Maybe it was just part of the journey. She stood up again, her hands trembling but with determination. I'm not giving up, she said, through clenched teeth. I'm going to try again. Lucas nodded, stepping back to give her space. Take your time, one step at a time. With a deep breath, Aria took the first step again, slower this time, more deliberate. The robotic legs felt heavy, still not perfect, but she could feel the connection growing. She wasn't just using her body to walk. She was using her heart, her will to keep moving, to keep going despite the odds. Step by step, she moved forward. Each step felt like an incredible victory, and though she was far from graceful, she didn't care. She was walking. She was moving, through the world once again. The fear was still there, lurking beneath the surface, but it no longer controlled her. She was in control. As she reached the end of the street, she stopped, looking back at Lucas. His face was filled with pride. You did it, he said softly. Aria smiled, a real smile, the kind she hadn't had in years. No, she said, breathing deeply. We did it. The road ahead was still uncertain. She knew that. But for the first time, Aria believed in her own strength. She was learning to trust not just the robotic legs, but herself. And with that trust came the possibility of something even greater, freedom. This wasn't just a test of her body, it was a test of her spirit, and in that moment, she knew she was ready to face whatever came next. The following weeks were filled with both victories and challenges, each one testing Aria in ways she hadn't imagined. With every step she took, she felt herself change, evolving into someone stronger, more resilient. But with each step came a new question. Who was she becoming? Her old life seemed distant now, as if it belonged to someone else. The woman she had been, the one who had once walked with ease, was a memory she was slowly letting go of. The woman she was becoming was someone she didn't yet fully understand. The robotic legs had started to feel more natural, responding to her movements with greater precision, but there were still moments when they malfunctioned. Small things. A misstep here, a slight jerk there. Nothing too major, but enough to remind her that this technology wasn't perfect, and neither was she. The more she walked, the more she realized that the legs weren't just an extension of her body. They were a symbol of her transformation, of everything she had given up to get to this point. And then came the day that would change everything. Lucas had been working on a new upgrade for the legs, one that he believed would solve the last few issues. He called her in to test the new system. Arya was nervous. She had come so far already, and the idea of pushing the legs further was terrifying. What if this upgrade didn't work? What if it made things worse? You've come a long way, Arya, Lucas said as he prepared the new system. This upgrade will make the legs more responsive. It'll make them feel more like your own. Arya sat in the chair, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Her mind was a whirlwind of doubt. What if this is too much? What if I'm not ready for this next step? But she couldn't turn back now, not after everything. Not after everything she had sacrificed to get to this point. I trust you, she said, her voice steady, though her heart raced in her chest. Lucas gave her a reassuring smile, but his eyes held a hint of uncertainty. I know you do. And I trust you too. The upgrade was quick, and soon the new system was installed. Lucas asked her to stand and take a few steps. Arya hesitated, her heart pounding in her chest. The fear was back, stronger than ever. This was no longer just about walking. This was about something bigger, about accepting the new version of herself, something she didn't fully understand yet. She stood, and immediately she could feel the difference. The robotic legs moved more fluidly, more in sync with her own body. It was like they were an extension of herself, like they belonged there. She took a step forward, then another, and then another. With each movement, she felt more confident, more in control. But as she moved further, a sharp pain shot up her left leg. She stopped immediately, clutching her knee in agony. The pain was sudden, intense, and it felt like something had gone wrong. Lucas rushed to her side, concern written across his face. What happened? He asked urgently. Arya winced, her breath shallow. I don't know. It's like something snapped. Lucas quickly examined the leg, his face paling as he ran through the diagnostics. It's the upgrade, he muttered. There's a malfunction in the system. The connection wasn't fully established. We've pushed the limits too far. Arya's stomach dropped. What does that mean? Is it permanent? Lucas's face was filled with guilt. No, it's not permanent. But the damage could take time to fix. We'll need to shut the system down and reprogram it. Arya's heart sank as the weight of the situation hit her. She had come so far, fought so hard to be able to walk again. But now, with everything she had worked for in danger of being taken away, a new kind of fear settled in her chest. What if it doesn't work? What if I can never walk again? The uncertainty hung over her like a dark cloud. Lucas's words echoed in her mind. We've pushed the limits too far. But there was something else in Lucas's eyes, something that she hadn't noticed before. It wasn't just guilt. It was something deeper, something more personal. He was afraid. What's really going on, Lucas? Arya asked, her voice steady despite the fear twisting in her gut. This isn't just about the legs, is it? He hesitated for a moment, then sighed deeply. No, it's not. Arya, the truth is, these legs are just the beginning. The technology we've developed, it's not just about helping people walk again. It's about something bigger, something that could change the entire world. The upgrades were supposed to be a small step, a test of what's possible. But now, we've pushed too far. We've opened doors we can't close. Arya's mind raced. What doors? What are you talking about? What do you mean? She asked, her voice trembling now. Lucas looked at her, his face serious. Arya, these legs, they're more than just robotic limbs. They're a prototype for something much more advanced, something that could change the way humans and aliens interact. I didn't just build this technology to help people walk again. I built it to bridge the gap, to give humans an advantage in a world where we're constantly fighting for survival. Arya was stunned. She had known the technology was advanced, but she hadn't realized it was part of something bigger. You're saying these legs are part of some kind of plan? Something bigger? Lucas nodded. Yes. And the malfunction, the one you just experienced, it's not just a mistake, it's a sign that we've gone too far. I don't know what the consequences will be. But I'm scared, Arya. I'm scared that we've opened a door that we can't close. Arya stared at him, her mind racing. Everything had changed in an instant. The technology she had come to trust, the hope that had kept her going, was now tangled in something far more dangerous than she had ever imagined. What if the price of walking again is too high? What if trusting Lucas and his technology is more dangerous than being stuck in this chair forever? But then, a part of her, something deep inside, made a decision. I can't go back, she thought. I've already come this far. I've already put everything on the line. I can't let fear stop me now. With a deep breath, she looked at Lucas. We need to fix this. We need to finish what we started. Lucas looked at her, his face torn between fear and admiration. Arya, are you sure? This could be dangerous. We're dealing with something that no one fully understands. I'm sure, she said, her voice filled with determination. We can't stop now, not after everything. We have to see this through. The silence between them stretched, heavy with the weight of the decision. And in that moment, Arya knew that there was no turning back. Whatever came next, she would face it head on. Because the world she had once known was gone, and the person she was becoming was ready to face whatever the future held. This was no longer just about robotic legs. This was about survival. This was about taking control of her future, no matter the cost. A new beginning. The quiet hum of the machines was the only sound in the room as Arya sat, her legs trembling from the effort of the past few days. Lucas was working tirelessly, his eyes glued to the diagnostic screen, trying to fix the malfunction that had nearly destroyed everything they had worked for. The robotic legs were once again connected, but this time something felt different. Something felt bigger. Arya could feel it deep in her bones, a shift in the air, as though the world around her was waiting for something to happen. How much longer can we keep going? The question echoed in her mind, but she pushed it aside. There was no turning back. Now, after everything, after the pain, the frustration, the fear, she had come too far to stop. The malfunction that had nearly crippled her progress had been far more than just a technical issue. Lucas had warned her about the dangers of pushing the boundaries too far, but she had ignored the warning. She had wanted so badly to walk again, to be free, that she hadn't fully grasped the implications of the technology she was using. It wasn't just about walking, it was about survival, about the future of humanity. As Lucas continued to work, Arya felt the weight of the decision they had made. They had crossed a line, opened a door to something no one truly understood. What if it was too much? What if the consequences were far worse than anything they could imagine? She looked down at the robotic legs, now functioning better than ever. Before. They were sleek, responsive, and seemed to move almost as naturally as her own limbs. But with every step, with every movement, there was a nagging feeling in the back of her mind. Was this the future? Or was it the beginning of something? Much darker? Arya! Lucas's voice broke through her thoughts, and she looked up to find him standing beside her, his face tight with exhaustion. The system is stable again, but we have to test it. We have to push it to its limit to see if it's truly safe. The words sent a chill down her spine. Test it. She had already tested it. She had walked, she had run, and she had nearly fallen apart. But Lucas was right. They couldn't stop now. They had to see if this new version of the technology was truly the answer, or if it would bring more destruction. "I'm ready," Arya said, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions. Inside her, she had fought too hard to give up now. "It's time to find out what this really is," she thought. With a deep breath, Arya stood and slowly made her way to the open space in the center of the room. The legs hummed beneath her, more responsive than ever before. For the first time, she didn't feel like a stranger in her own body. She felt alive, as if the pieces of herself that had been missing for so long were finally coming together. "Take it slow," Lucas warned, his eyes watching her closely. "We don't know what the full extent of the upgrades will do yet. It could be unstable." Arya nodded, but she didn't hesitate. She knew that if she wanted to truly understand what this technology could do, she would have to push beyond her limits. She took her first step, then another. The robotic legs moved, effortlessly beneath her, as if they were her own. Her feet hit the floor with confidence, and she felt the rush of freedom that came with each step. But then, just as she was starting to feel like she was in control, a loud, sharp noise filled the air. The robotic legs jerked, and for a moment, Arya felt as if the ground had been ripped from beneath her. She stumbled, her heart leaping in her chest, but before she could fall, Lucas was there, catching her. The world seemed to freeze in that moment, the fear of everything going wrong flooding her senses. "What happened?" Arya gasped, her voice trembling. Her body was shaking, and her mind raced with the terrifying thought that the progress she had made was all for nothing. Lucas looked down at the diagnostic screen, his face pale. "There's been a miscalculation. The system is overloading. It's reacting faster than we anticipated." Arya's heart sank. No, not again. They had come so far, and now it seemed like everything was falling apart. But then, something unexpected happened. As Lucas worked quickly to stabilize the system, Arya stood, her hands trembling. Something inside her snapped. No more fear, she thought, no more holding back. She took another step, this time without thinking, and then another. Each step felt like a test, each movement a battle between her body and the technology. But as she walked, she began to realize something. She wasn't just fighting to walk again. She was fighting for her future, for humanity's future. The world wasn't going to wait for her to catch up. If she wanted to change the course of her life, she had to move forward. The robotic legs began to stabilize, moving in sync with her body. Lucas worked frantically at the control panel, but Arya kept moving, pushing through the pain, the fear, and the doubt. Each step was harder than the last, but she refused to stop. With one final push, she reached the far end of the room, her body trembling from the exertion. She turned to face Lucas, her eyes filled with determination. "We've done it," she said, her voice shaking but strong. "It's working. We're not stopping now." Lucas looked up at her, his face filled with awe. "Arya, you did it. You've overcome it." But Arya wasn't done. Not yet. "This is just the beginning," she said. "We've opened a door. Now we need to see what's on the other side." There was a moment of silence, a quiet understanding passing between them. They had both come so far, and the road ahead was uncertain, filled with dangers they couldn't yet comprehend. But for the first time, Arya felt truly free. The future was no longer something to fear. It was something to embrace as she stood. There, looking out at the world beyond, she knew one thing for sure. Whatever came next, she would face it with strength. Because she wasn't just walking anymore. She was leading. And no matter how difficult the road ahead, she would keep moving forward step by step. The world was changing, and so was she.